Hey there, students. Mr. Wolf here, and today we're going to be talking about your Seddfolks journals. So, as we are reading through the text, we are going to be doing a journaling process, much like you've probably done in classes before, where as you're reading, you're going to be answering questions, maybe taking notes, and also tracking vocabulary and the like as we read. So we're going to be doing the same thing here, but what we've done is we've created a Google Slides presentation for you to do that process in. So it's all kind of in this one contained place. So we're not going to be handing out little assignments here and there for each chapter. It's all going to be in this one journal document here, or this one journal slides presentation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the resources we have. So we have a table of contents here, and you'll note that we've broken up the reading into 4 parts with 3 characters, 3 chapters per part to kind of make it easy for you. Now, this table of contents is also hyperlinked. So what that means is when you click on the character, it will actually take you to the section that section of the character and what needs to happen for that chapter there, okay? You'll also notice that down the bottom here we have the vocabulary list. Vocabulary is actually integrated into each chapter, so we'll talk about that. Some PEA resources, and then notes pages for various persons we'll talk about later as well. So the first page you have here is a welcome page that we'd like you to fill out. So your name, a picture of you, a quick bio, and your communities. Now, I'll talk real quick about communities. So obviously we have the communities that are, like your neighborhood, your city, so on, the Front Range and whatnot. And those communities you can add in as well. But one of the things you can consider also is other communities that you're in, maybe more specialized communities, like if you're in a certain group or organization, if you attend maybe a church or something along those lines. If you have an online community, you have a community of friends or community of people that you play video games with online, or if you're in a sports community or you're part of an organization like 4-H, Weston Airs, or something along those lines. There's a lot of different places we find ourselves in community with other people. And this is a text about community, so that's one of the things we just kind of want to keep wheels turning with, and how all of the characters in the story, how they find themselves interacting with their community, okay? Now, there are some resources here. There is the digital text that you can read right from this. You can click on that. It'll open up a digital text for you. There is also an audiobook if you want to listen there, or just as a resource for you. Now, there is a chapter in that audiobook we're not actually including, and it's not in the digital text there. And you can listen to it as you like. We're not going to be asking questions or holding you to that one. And then you'll see a couple of different other resources that are specifically about the author, just for additional context, some of which we've seen already as well, okay? Now, another thing I also want to mention, speaking of navigation, these little tabs are also hyperlinked. So when you click on part 1, it will actually take you to part 1. And you'll see here's a picture of the 3 characters that are in that, Kim, Anna, and Wendell. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and see what that looks like. So when we go to Kim, what you're going to see is every single character has kind of this bio, and it's pretty standardized. And it's going to be asking about your age, the ethnicity, and a variety of questions about that character. Now, some of these questions may be a little tricky to identify, like the character might not mention their specific age or even their specific ethnicity yet. Most of them do, but if you're like, hey, I can't find that information yet, you may have to sit tight and just wait to another chapter a little bit later on where that character is mentioned, or they kind of, come walking across the screen, so to speak. So some of that information might not be there, but a little description of their character. They are doing a narrative, so you'll have some details about the character. Why that person gardens. Now, sometimes that changes because some characters don't actually garden. Sometimes it's just a contribution they make, or why do they take interest in the garden, maybe another question that we're asking there. But every character kind of has, the garden has an impact on them, and a garden they have a reason for why they garden. So that's kind of what I'm asking there. And then their contributions. Now, that contribution may be actually a plant, a specific thing, and then why. Don't just be like, oh, it's peas, but like, why? So usually there's a reason for why the character is planting what they are. Or the action that they take in contribution to the garden somehow. And then the impact that character has on others. And again, that might be one you don't see until later when you get into other characters and how they interact with that person. And sometimes it's a little vague. They don't all know each other's names necessarily, okay? So you might have to read a little bit on to answer some of the questions in these. Now, I'm going to pop out of this real quick, and you'll see that, hey, we have these sticky notes kind of surrounding the slide. And these sticky notes are meant for you to complete. They are questions for each chapter. So they are specific to every character and that chapter. to answer, please make sure that you are answering those questions with evidence and some robust detail as best you can. If you need to also tweak the sticky notes a little bit to add some space or whatever, feel free to do that as needed, okay? Now, after each chapter, after this slide, you'll see a slide that has vocabulary. And so what we're asking you to do is put the definitions, parts of speech, and the synonyms for each one of these 5 words, so not too difficult. And then in the final section here for your vocabulary, we have 2 options for you, so you only have to do one. One is to write a little story, okay, using those 5 words. You don't have to put it all in one sentence. We're not asking who created the shortest story. Just have a little fun with it. It's meant to be creative. Make sure you're using those words in context. Okay, make sure that it makes sense how they're fitting in. So you might throw in some context clues or something like that to make sure that the word is pretty understandable. And then with images, you can choose an image for each word. Try to put a little caption so it's clear which word goes with which image. And you can again just plot those in that section there. So that's for the vocabulary, and you'll see that for every single section. So here's Anna's and her vocab, and Wendell and his vocab. And again, you can get a big list of the vocab down at the bottom in that little tab there. Now, after each one of the sections, and there's 4 altogether, there will be this last final activity for you. And this activity usually has a link to some other media. In this case, it's going to be a poem. So what I'd like you to do is read through that poem and then answer these questions. Usually there's a couple questions on the specific reading or viewing as it might be. We've got a video in there. We've got a couple of articles, things like that. And then there will be a final question kind of weaving in the story, like how does this connect to the story and what are we learning through that? So so please go through that, and that's kind of a final review, if you will, through each set of chapters that we're doing, okay? Now, after that, we have the next section, and as we get to the bottom of this presentation, you'll see that there is a vocabulary tab. You can click on that, go for it. And there's just a list of the vocabulary that you can look through just if you need to, if you want to quiz yourself or anything like that. And then there's the PEA writing resources there. And then finally, that notes section. And again, you can expand this section as needed if you want to add more to it, or you want to make a little section for each one of the characters just as you're reading and you want to have some details there, that's fine. Again, you'll have the bios and those questions to work from as well. So, as always, if you have any questions, please just refer to myself or Miss Allison as needed. And thank you guys for watching. Have a great one, guys. Bye.